Got my friend Ann Coulter on the line. Ann Coulter, the author of 12, count them, 12 New York Times bestsellers, in spite of the fact that the New York Times would like to ignore these books. And, of course, writer of frequent commentary for Human Events and a syndicated column for United Press Syndicate. Ann, I love your new article on the laundering money and getting out the toughest sleaze. It sounds like a commercial.
Yes. Yes, no one noticed this little bombshell in the follow-up article by Ronan Farrow, who turns out to be a fantastic investigative reporter who knew Mia Farrow's son, who briefly had that show on MSNBC. He had the really spicy Harvey Weinstein story, initially commissioned by NBC, incidentally, but NBC refused to run it, so he took it to the New Yorker. Well, his follow-up story last week was about all of the spies Harvey Weinstein deployed against his alleged rape victims and molestation victims. And what he did was he hired the formerly, honorable, reputable Democratic attorney David Boies. David Boies would then hire Black Cube. This is Israeli private eye firm. The Black Cube deployed a spy, many spies, but the one that was detailed in this article, using fake names and talking to one thing for journalists who seem to be looking into all of the Harvey Weinstein's sexual predations. But most despicably, the spy hired ultimately by Harvey Weinstein through Black Cube to the spy herself would befriend the victims, the rape victims themselves, pretending to be a woman's right advocate and, I'd like to contribute to your projects, and we're having and a fake foundation, fake name, fake foundation, and we want you to be a speaker. We'll pay you $60,000 to come speak at our opening. Let's have dinner, let's have drinks, and then secretly tape recording the actress. The actress was Rose McGowan. That was the one that Ronan was particularly covering. It's just utterly despicable.
But not unusual for Democrats. I mean,
that was what jumped out at me that others didn't notice. The bombshell was this laundering of disgusting, incredibly disreputable behavior, hiring a spy to secretly tape record rape victims of your own, and the way that spy gets hired is through a law firm. The advantage of hiring a law firm is you get attorney-client privilege. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that might be pierced in a case like this, particularly if the tape recording, if any of it was done, just off the top of my head, among other things, tape recording was done in California, one-sided secret tape recording against the law. There are a few states where it is against the law. Most states it's fine. But I would think shockingly unethical behavior. I would think the law, Bar Association would have something to do with this. But the reason it jumped out with me to me is that this is the exact same method, step by step, that Hillary used to pay Russian government officials for dirt on Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And by the way, but in addition to attorney-client privilege, these various cutouts, using a law firm as a cutout, also is kind of a confusing story, which is why probably no one else noticed this in this story. Okay, so how did it work with Hillary? The Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC paid $12 million to a law firm in Washington. The law firm in Washington hires a private eye investigation. You've heard about Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS hires the spy, Michael Steele. He then pays Russian government officials for gossip and dirt on Trump, and that becomes the Russian dossier. It is the exact same steps, the law firm, the spy agency, the spy, to do something illicit, both Hillary Clinton and Harvey Weinstein employed here. It used to be, you and I lived through the old Democrat sleaze with Bill Clinton not hiring, but having, friends of Bill, James Carville and Sidney Blumenthal just going on TV smearing Bill Clinton's rape victims and sexual assault victims. No, now they can have this sort of hands-off approach by laundering the money to smear their victims or engage in illicit activities laundering it through an allegedly reputable Democratic law firm.
It's just, it is so clear to me and to you and to so many others, and yet I got an attorney general who won't make a move. I mean, you know that I love Jeff Sessions, and I have for many, many years, but I'm completely stymied by why he does not go after Hillary Clinton, particularly with this paying for the dossier. I mean,
I agree with you, and I think that the original sin at Department of Justice, which in this day and age may be the most important department for President Trump, was putting swamp creature Rod Rosenstein in as Deputy Attorney General. As long as the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, has to recuse himself from anything campaign-related, and he does. He did have to do that, but okay,
yeah.
Then you don't put in a swamp creature. And by the way, Rod Rosenstein, he does have, an impressive background in Federalist Society terms. He was president of the Federalist Society at Harvard. But there really is something to the swamp, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
You've been a lifelong DOJ staffer, and there are more politically savvy people who are not planning on a lifetime career in Washington who could have been put in that position. I know Jeff Sessions knew about them, and yet, no, he just takes, who does the RNC recommend? Who's been at DOJ for 20 years?
Nice.
And I think that's where we have all the problems.
Mm-hmm. And just because he recused himself from, anything having to do where he could be a witness in a campaign matter doesn't mean that they can't prosecute the DNC or Hillary Clinton for that dossier and the monies that were literally stolen from contributors and donors and used for not opposition research, but used to besmirch the reputation of the other candidate. I mean, why can't he go after that?
Correct.
Yeah,
just because a judge knows the defendant, it doesn't mean the defendant can get off for murder. Mm-hmm. No, you get a different judge.
Right. Exactly. And
that's what the situation is here. Yes, Sessions himself, because he was on the campaign, can't be involved in any campaign-related activities. But, I mean, a lot of these people going into DOJ, I'm embarrassed to admit, a practicing lawyer for a few years and heavily involved in the Federalist Society. I started our chapter at University of Michigan Law School. A lot of these lawyers, by swamp standards, they have nice little, proper Federalist Society resumes. And I'm not really dissing the Federalist Society. It's just that there really is something. I love the Federalist Society. But there is something to the swamp and wanting to get along with people. You have to see these people day in, day out. I mean, it's just the idea of bringing in fresh eyes. And there are a lot of Federalist Society members or excellent attorneys with very impressive resumes in places of the country other than Washington, D.C.
Right, exactly. Well, look, you have another trial that's going on with this Senator Menendez that I see absolutely no coverage of. I mean, this guy, if he gets convicted in this corruption case, the Democrats aren't even saying if he should step down.
Thank you for mentioning that. It occurs to me about once a week. A United States senator is being tried criminally right now.
Right.
Tried criminally. It is amazing that there's no press about this. I mean, probably at least half your listeners are hearing about this for the first time right now.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, they hear it on this show all the time. But
okay.
But it's this is the kind of stuff that just makes me wonder. What is going on in the Department of Justice? As you said, if he doesn't get rid of these lifetime career politicians, is what they are, not prosecutors, then this is going to go on forever.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, that's why I went in 1995 to work for the Senate Judiciary Committee from a law firm in New York, because I remember thinking then it was the first time Republicans had taken Congress in 40 years. And if it was just going to be, back in those days, staffers for Nancy Kassebaum, moving over to work for these fresh-faced new Republicans in the Senate, nothing would ever change. I mean, staffing really, personnel is policy. It makes a huge difference. And moving around the chess pieces, when it's the same chess pieces and the same board, is never going to change anything.
That's right. One last question I have for you, because like you, I don't believe feminists care one whit about females and their issues, as proven over and over again by their silence on anything that has to do. Juanita Broaddrick, Paula Jones. The list is endless. People like you and I who are constantly being attacked and marginalized, and gender is one of the ways in which they do it. But I'm watching these, the domino effect of the Weinstein thing. And I'm watching what's going on in Alabama, and I have to tell you, there is something that stinks in that case. Not that I think that I'm positive that those things didn't happen, but I'm not sure how you can get a headline today, even in CNN, saying that the Washington Post convinced them to go public. Since when does the media convince victims to go public? I mean, is that part of the Fourth Estate? I didn't know that was my job.
No, the media have become opposition research.
They're an arm of the Democratic Party, is what they are.
Yes, and I mean, if you think about it, you can't even remember what a normal media would look like. But the way the media ought to operate is when they get news, they print it. Nice. No, that's not what our media does. And I'll go back, this must have been maybe a decade ago. You'll remember the Mark Foley case. He was sending, sort of creepy emails. I don't think it was more than that. But Republican congressmen in Florida sending creepy emails to young male pages.
They made him step down
But they waited. They waited until his name couldn't be taken off the ballot. ABC had that information. We know that ABC had that information. That is not how a news organization operates. When you get the story, you print it. Mm-hmm. You don't check what are, the filing deadlines and when can the Republicans not remove his name from the ballot. That is how our media operates. And yes, the timing in this case is very suspicious, as I've been noting in a few tweets on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Well, two things make this case suspicious, let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. The way the Washington Post throws in cases that are not scandalous. You may not like, a 32-year-old dating a 17, 18, 19-year-old, but I don't know, people didn't really mind when Jerry Seinfeld was dating Shoshana. He was 39 years old, she was 17.
Or Elvis.
I think he was 38.
Elvis and Priscilla.
And I just tweeted last night, I remember that Mimi Alford. JFK had an extramarital affair in the White House at age 45 with a 19-year-old. So, don't throw those cases in with the one genuine scandal that is being alleged. That's what we want to look at. But they do it to make it look like, there are all kinds of accusers. No, there's one accuser. There's one accuser of something absolutely appalling, that the 14-year-old girl was sexually molested by Roy Moore. He heatedly denies it. And then the other problem with the media is, I'm sorry, if they're going to keep lying to us,
we don't believe them.
We need more than their word for something. Right. Not after Ferguson, not after Duke Lacrosse, not after UVA, and all of the rest of their hair on fire.
Not after
stories.
Tawana Burley. Not after any of this stuff.
Right.
We've been sold a line of goods over and over again about the victims. The real victims get marginalized and attorneys sicked on them, and the fake victims get front page news.
Though I will say, we have a little bit, in one way, of a Todd Aiken case here. The Democrats definitely wanted to run against Roy Moore rather than Mo Brooks, the candidate I supported,
right.
a congressman.
I did
really
too.
kind of think the Republicans should make a deal with Roy Moore. Okay, we won't attack you, but if you get elected, we're replacing you with Mo Brooks.
Yeah,
because he wouldn't mind Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks didn't campaign. Luther Strange, he'd be ticked off at.
Right. Well, listen, none of this is possible because they have a death wish. I mean, I can see it in this is what they do, and then they cannot recover, and they spend all of their time trying to tap dance around it, and it's really very sad, but. Look, I feel for Roy Moore and his family right now, because even if all of these allegations are true, the fact that for 30-odd years the Washington Post didn't think it was important enough to press the confessions out of these women really just tells you what their real motives are. It has nothing to do with the way the woman was treated.
It does make it very suspicious. Roy Moore has been front page national
forever.
news.
Yeah.
That whole Ten Commandments thing, this wasn't just a local Alabama story. For Pete's sake, that was on the front page of the New York Times.
Right.
And 4 weeks before an election, when his name can't be taken off the ballot, that does look very suspicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't need Mitch McConnell today. I believe the women. You know, Mitch McConnell would believe anything that has to do with getting rid of Roy Moore. I mean,
right.
You know.
I mean, that means absolutely nothing, although on MSNBC and CNN, and why even Republicans hate this guy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do think it would be funny and potentially quite useful if Roy Moore won. I still don't think Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan will get the message, but it would be funny if, First, we run this crazy reality TV star for president, but he wanted to build a wall and deport illegals, so he swept aside all contenders and won. Mm-hmm. Then we have out in Montana a Republican candidate who decks a reporter, but he wants to build a wall and deport illegals.
And he gets elected, yeah.
And now we have a man accused of sexual molestation, but he wants to build a wall and deport illegals. It would be hilarious if he won, too.
Yeah.
What else do we need to do to say we want a wall?
Absolutely. Well, Ann, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Right back at you. Good to talk to you, Joyce.
Good to talk to you. Ann Coulter, go to our website, read her articles. We'll be right back.